Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you are all doing well. Today, I am joined by my chosen of Valhalla, and today, I once again am joined by the lovely, the beautiful, the mother of the channel, the superior of the channel, Laura Ryan Stoll of My Fan Fiction Story. Laura, how is it going?
Pretty good. Good to talk to you this morning.
Great to have you as always. I'm about to say, yeah, it's going to be what, about 9 for you? About 10?
Yeah, 10 here.
Nice and early. We got Micah D2 is in the chat. Brandon B is in the chat. Lucho is in the chat as well. We got also some people over on the D Lives. Kim Can Park, Darkstar 57, the K-Man as well. Hope you are all doing exceptionally well. And today, indeed, we are talking with the Chosen of Valhalla, and my chosen, Laura, has chosen a couple of things that she wants to talk about. Let's start off with something that's still pretty hot in the news, still something that Gary loves to talk about almost every single day. But hey, I understand why, because he's very passionate about it, because he has a great knowledge of the books, and he doesn't like how the series has taken that turn. You were saying to me over the message that you've started to listen to more of the audiobooks of Game of Thrones. So what are your thoughts? What are some things that maybe certain people haven't talked about, or maybe a different approach to Game of Thrones in this current season and the state of Game of Thrones as it is now?
Yeah, so I heard that the Winds of Winter, which is the next book, is going to be released sometime next year. So I figured I needed to go back and re-listen to all the audiobooks, because the books are vastly different than the movies. And I usually do that. I usually will, if there's a fantasy series that I like, I'll go back and read the books after I've seen the movies, because it usually adds to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started. I'm about halfway through the first book right now, and all the foreshadowing it's amusing. I'm kind of laughing out loud at work. People are like, "What?" I'm like, they just said, "Don't tell Sansa anything. She can't keep a secret."
Yeah, that's
in the first book.
Yeah, that's why, because me and my wife were talking about how the next time we do a road trip, because obviously we'll be traveling a little bit this summer as we're doing the moving process. And so one of the things we talked about was how we're definitely going to want to listen to some of those audiobooks just to get a little bit more knowledge about it. Because I'm the same way too, where I like to see a show or see a movie before actually reading a book, because for me, with someone with ADD, it's harder for me to be able to have, to picture a story and characters in my mind. And so whenever I read a story after the fact, I'm able to use the characters, the actors that were given to me, and form images in my head with those characters with the additional information. And so I'm always able to appreciate it more. I always feel that it's a better approach, because I've noticed this a lot, that whenever there are people out there that go out of their way to read something beforehand, I would say more than half the time they are disappointed by the movie or television show. But in my experience, those who watch the television show or movie first and then read end up loving both together. It's like, that's just my own personal experience with it all.
No, that's completely true, because most of the people I know who had any problems with the Lord of the Rings series were really diehard book fans. Same thing with Harry Potter, because they did change up. They kind of had to. They changed up a lot of the story from the books to get it on screen.
Yep.
But, it's really funny you just mentioned that, because my wife just watched all of the Harry Potter movies. She'd never seen them, and I look over and she's got this notebook. She's trying to follow along with her little notebook.
Oh, that's adorable.
She really did. I guess she went to Harry Potter Land and was in Universal Studios.
Okay.
She went to the Harry Potter section and really enjoyed herself and had a good time, and kind of wanted to figure out what all that was about. But
yeah.
It's funny. But
that's interesting, though. That is interesting.
Sorry. Yeah. She, my daughter and I, it was a huge bonding thing with us when she was younger. So it's glad that, now that, she's involved in that, so she knows what we're talking about. But Yeah.
Oh no, for sure. And I think that Harry Potter is a great example of that, because my wife was a huge fan of the books, loved the books, like just ate the books up. And then when she saw the movies, she was able to enjoy most of them because they were pretty, they were pretty good adaptations of the books overall. But she, of course, also had her criticisms too. And then for me, I was the person where I saw all the movies before reading the books. And then when I actually went back to read them, I said, oh, they got a lot right. And then the things they left out, I was like, I wonder why they left that out. But I actually really like this character. And so I would rather enjoy and love two things than love one thing and hate another. And so that's why I have always tried to have that mindset of I will watch a movie or TV version of something before actually reading a book. Because to me, if you're reading a book where it takes hours upon hours to read, it's as if you are being given a mini series that has had several seasons to develop characters and everything. You can't expect in an hour and a half, 2 hours to be pleased with any development or any actual character arcs given because of that compressed timeline. So to me, it's a fool's errand to dive into a rich story and then expect to be completely pleased otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm redoing the Game of Thrones books because I really want to see if there's any, clues or hints about, Daenerys taking the turn that she did.
Yeah.
But, I did notice, the one thing that I did notice immediately was how strict they stayed in the first series, in the first, first couple, what is it called? The first...
Books?
No, the first TV series. So it's almost word for word from the book.
Okay.
So the things that they did change was like Daenerys' wedding night.
Oh, the first season.
Yeah, first season. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was like, of all the things that you would take in a drastic change, it's like they made Daenerys' wedding night almost like non-consensual.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the books, she's very young, but it's not like it's a culture where women have a choice. So
yeah, and I think that's a good point too, and I think that's the reason why the books are just, especially when it comes to Game of Thrones, after season 4, the books become infinitely better because story arcs that are either truncated or ignored are given a lot more detail in the actual book versions themselves. A couple of donations. So Mystic Butterfly, thank you very much for the lemon over on DLive. I appreciate those lemons always, so thank you so much for that. And also we have a super chat from Darth Vectivus. Darth Vectivus, thank you for the Canadian $2, says, do you think George R. R. Martin will change the book ending? So Laura, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that George R. R. Martin will change the book ending?
No, I think that's probably what he had planned all along, but I just think it'll be more obvious, how she got there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, the books, when the books end, Jon Snow is dead. So, he has quite a lot of time that he needs to fill in with these books. And, I think it's just he's going to leave more hints and make it more obvious. But
yeah, I would definitely agree. And kind of taking a page out of Gary over at Nerdrotics Channel's book, if he even finishes the series, which is a big question mark at this point. But I would say as far as what we're going to get by the end of it, I would say I imagine George told them this is how certain character arcs are going to end, but he didn't tell them how they're going to get there. And so what you're going to have is you're going to have a series that's going to go through thousands upon thousands of pages of content, of development, of arcs that are all going to start to build and make sense. And then we're going to get to the ending and think, oh, this really isn't all that out of the blue, or, oh, this really isn't all that bad. But of course, it's not going to make up for the fact that the TV show just rushed through so many things, ignored so many things on top of that, and overall just caused a lot of issues, not only with fans, but also just with the basic premise of the book and with basic character development, which it kind of destroyed for a couple of people.
Yeah, Bran in the books is one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
And, he just kind of seems like he's just ignored and pushed to the side. And It's like, well, what was the point of him getting all of these powers when he can't really do anything, you know? He just I figured he would have some kind of involvement in the final battle, or he just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And
No, absolutely. Alex McCarthy, what's going on, man? I saw that you mentioned my name in the chat, so welcome, good sir. Wished upon a vlog. My Irish sisters here as well. Hello, hello, hello. Swift Raptor, what's going on? Alex McCarthy says, same, I have ADHD and cannot keep focus on a book to save my life. I need audio and visual. Yep, same here. And that's why, even for books, I need audiobooks. You know, I need the audiobook version. Otherwise, it's going to be nearly impossible for me to be able to get through these things. Teresa Martin, welcome, welcome, welcome. And then over on DLive, we're getting blown up here by AutoWorks. AutoWorks, thank you so much, man, for the lemon, ice cream, and diamond. I really do appreciate that a lot. That's awesome. Holy crap, there's now a crap ton of people that are just following. What is going on here? I am so confused.
Nice.
This is insane. What is going on? I have no idea. This is Mr. Winner. Mr. Winner, did I win something?
Chicken dinner? No.
I'm about to say winner, winner, chicken dinner. I don't know what's going on. It seems like they're saying I won something, but I have no idea. So
nice. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, if I say I have no idea if it is just people spamming or not. So mods over there, if y'all could just keep an eye out, because I did see we do have a mod over there now. So K-Man, Faux Nemo, welcome, welcome, welcome. And AutoWorks, once again, thank you so much for that. Mr. Winner, thank you for that follow. Ivan SB for the follow. TK40 for the follow. Haker Bani Domendo. I'm Stickly364. Emeta. And let's see, Luke Sunvexen, Homie Ab, and Shar Sandelavigo. Thank you very much for it's a raid. Oh God, it's a raid. I'm being raided right now. Holy crap, yeah, there's 30 people watching now. Who is raiding me? From Mr. Winner. Well, thank you, Mr. Winner, for raiding this chat. It's a random one for you to be raiding right now because I'm streaming on YouTube as well, but thank you for the raid. Oh man, this is crazy. Sorry, so sorry, YouTube peeps. So sorry. This is very crazy what's going on over there. But we do have a super chat from Brandon B over on YouTube who says, "Hey Odin, here's my last $5 from my super chat budget for May. Keep up all the great work." Well, Brandon B, thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate the super chat. I appreciate your support. And Mr. Winner over on DLive, thank you so much for your tremendous support. And, of course, now AutoWorks is continuing to drop his stuff. AutoWorks, thank you for the lemon ice cream and diamond as well. Really does mean a lot. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. But anyway, getting back to the discussion at hand. So, yeah, when it comes to Game of Thrones, obviously, both of us here are people where we like to watch things before actually reading them. We obviously both recognize the faults in the series. Do you think that there are certain things, though, Laura, this is a question for you. Do you think there are certain things that are being overblown right now by some people on the YouTubes or in the critic circles with this show, or do you think that most of the criticism is pretty spot on?
I think I agreed more with Cecil on Arya killing the Night King. I didn't like how they just kind of had Jon kind of flopping around, which they just needed to shoot that better. Because he looked ridiculous. Yeah, for honestly. Sure. But I mean, I liked his point of, she's an assassin. It's kind of what she's trained for. I don't know. Maybe they could have done it together. To have him have like no involvement was kind of weird. I haven't really heard any criticism that was outside of the bounds of what I was thinking. Especially, I've been listening to Gary Nerdrotics stream a lot, and yeah, he's right on the money because he's invested a lot of time into the story. So,
and that's why I love his channel, and that's why I saw that because I've seen some of the streams where you say, "Thanks to Odin for sending me this way," because seriously, he's one of my favorite channels, like he really is, and it's because he has that knowledge. He has spent years in the comic book industry. He knew what sold, what didn't sell. He's read the comics himself. He's read all of the Game of Thrones books when this discussion about Game of Thrones. And so when he's speaking from someone who has again, a certain knowledge that I think many people don't, because I, for example, I'm a TV person, so I'm only being able to speak from it from the perspective of someone who's been watching the show. And so to hear his perspective and to see that there are issues from both sides, from both different people a part of the equation, I think really just speaks to that fact that you have a situation where this series has just been, in a lot of ways, almost utterly destroyed by the current crop of people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I studied history, and I really don't know a lot about like castle siege tactics or whatever, but I just laughed out loud. We were watching the last episode with the Night King battle. I was just laughing out loud. I'm like, why would you put your troops in front of the moat? That makes no sense.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of people who actually know a lot about military tactics just ripping to shreds
Oh yeah, and there were videos too, and I'm sure that you've seen them where it's people who study military tactics, and they're breaking down why the tactics they used were some of the worst in military history.
Yeah, I mean, just sending your cavalry out, into the darkness. It's like,
Yeah, exactly right. Also, AutoWorks, I don't know if I gave you your fair due, man, but thank you for that lemon ice cream. And Diamond again, AutoWorks has been very generous over on DLive, so seriously, thank you so much, man. I do appreciate it. And also, Nickel Noodles, thank you very much for the ice cream. And for the Raiders that just came and left, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the purpose of raiding on DLive is, but...
It sounds like it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a little fun. I do like how AutoWorks was like cheap-ass Raiders, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. What's up, Laura?
The dogs are out, so just FYI.
Oh, that's okay.
I've got the pot.
Okay.
I've got the mute ready.
That is fine by me. Sorry, I just realized that my title on DLive is all jacked up. It's all jacked up. That's okay. DLive, it's easy to update those things. All right.
Well, I don't know if you've announced it yet, but I'm really glad to hear that you're doing stuff in the mornings, because when World Class Bullshitter stopped doing his morning show, I was telling a number of people, I'm like, there's a huge gap there.
Yeah.
There's
and that's what I was that's what I was figuring. That's why last night, when I was asking the questions, everyone was getting so salty because their immediate thought was, no, don't change it. It says it's all about adding. It's about putting more stuff out there. It's not about taking anything away. Nothing's gonna change, at least except for the days that I have rehearsal for my usual night streams. But it was just so funny to see some of the salt in the chat last night, and then of course I get salt, and so therefore I get salty right back. And so it was kind of fun going with that back and forth. But yeah, for those that don't know, the schedule has not been finalized yet, because obviously I still need to talk to Freya about it. And so we haven't officially sat down to talk about that. We're going to talk about that later on. But right now, the tentative schedule is that we're going to have a stream Monday through Thursday in the morning. So nothing else has changed as far as the normal Monday, Tuesday, Saturday streams, though the hours of those streams are going to be in flux because of rehearsals that I'm currently in, and I have warned y'all about that, so just y'all have to stay on y'all's toes for that. But that's the reason why I've also decided to add in a more consistent schedule. So right now, Monday through Thursday, we're going to have 9 a.m. Central Standard Time to 10:30 Central Standard Time streams. So hour and a half streams in the mornings. And Mondays, it's going to be focusing on the box office. It's going to be focusing on movies from the weekend, any movie news related stuff from the weekend. Tuesdays, it's going to be a movie watch party. So every single Tuesday in the morning from 9 to 10:30, there's going to be a movie watch. So obviously, if it's longer than an hour and a half, we're going to, it's going to extend past that time. But it's going to be on DLive, meaning that it's just going to be on DLive. And it's going to be a way for me to be able to play the audio for you guys as we watch the movie, since DLive is not nearly as crazy as when it comes to copyright nonsense. So we'll have a movie watch every single Tuesday morning, because I can't do movies at nights normally, typically, because again, I can't add any more streams at night. Three at night's already more than enough, especially since that's when my wife's going to be home, and I can't. The only reason why I can do the mornings is because she'll be working over the summer. I won't be. So it's a way for us to kind of, have a win-win. Low Council will still stay the same on Tuesdays. Wednesdays will be a wrestling news podcast episode. Yeah, I know. Wrestling. So many people on this channel loves wrestling, right? There's a few people, though, I know who want to talk about wrestling. And so we'll have a wrestling recap show on Wednesdays. And that's going to be hosted on the Welcome to Asgard channel, as well as D-Live, too. And then Thursdays will be a Twitch exclusive stream, since Twitch does not like to play friendly with other streaming platforms. And with that one, it's going to be a chat similar to our other chats, but there's also potential that I will be gaming while chatting also. And then Friday will be an open optional day where sometimes there will be a stream, sometimes there won't be. It depends on what's going on. But anyway, as you can see, lots and lots of new content, lots and lots of new ideas and things that'll be, tested out this week for the first time. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited for it to start and to see how many people, because I do know there are a lot of people. For example, Hunka Chunka Funka Monkey, he is one of my European brethren, and he's always asleep because, it's late at night for him when I'm streaming. So, oh, man. But let's see. AutoWorks is still dropping bombs. Thank you so much for the lemon ice cream and diamond. I appreciate that very much. So, Darkstar57 says it was a great chat last night. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. AutoWorks says, I think they were from another country, which could explain the small amount of follows and donations. Sounds about right, AutoWorks. Talking about that raid we had. Hi574 says, by the way, Odin, did Steph get that link to you? It's a way for everyone to be able to view the movie together with you hosting it and theirs. Yeah, Hi-Fi, I saw the link. I still don't know exactly how it works. I'm going to look into it. Again, I'm going to look into it to see if there's a way to do it, but it honestly makes me ask the question, is it legal? Because is it going to mean that it's going to stream to multiple people? So that we'll have to work with that. So we might not do that this week, but we might do that in the future. But yes, I have the link, Hi-Fi. I still need time to actually test it out and check it out for myself. But if that's a way for us to be able to stay in sync, that's one way to do it. If not, though, on D-Live, I shouldn't have any problems being able to actually play the audio on D-Live. So just saying. K-Man is very exciting about a wrestling stream. Will Gentry says, that's freaky. I live on both YouTube and D-Live now. It's like getting you in stereo. It's almost perfectly in sync. Well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Alex McCarthy, so heading back over to my YouTube peeps. Alex McCarthy says, I wasn't salty in doing the vote correctly. No, you weren't. And a lot of people were screwing up all of the voting stuff. Yeah, people do not like change, Will Gentry. Will Gentry, aren't you one of my UK brethren? Aren't you one of my European brethren that would benefit from a morning show? Alex McCarthy is very excited about the wrestling show. I know that much for sure. He says, thank you very much for adding a wrestling stream. Yeah, no problem, Alex McCarthy. And again, that's going to be over on the Welcome to Asgard channel. Seth says, does Odin Question still work on this stream? Yeah, that's for the YouTube stream. That's how it's going to work, unless, of course, we're on the other secondary channel. And Land30ML, Land3R0S-ML, thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate that very much. And also, Darth Bredicus, thank you very much for subscribing. I appreciate that very much so. All right, well, that is the first topic, was Game of Thrones. Any last-minute things, Laura, that you want to say about Game of Thrones before we move on to talking about other things going on in the news media today?
But it's just nice to have the, Winds of Winter to look forward to. Mm-hmm. Because, even if the story doesn't end the way that I want, or characters don't go the way that I want, I love his writing style. It was... he does this thing whenever somebody's eating dinner, it's always this 20-course affair, because you can tell he's like a big guy, and I was sitting listening to his, before I went to the movie yesterday, I was sitting in a coffee shop listening to them talk about lemon cakes and stuff.
See, I'm kind of glad I haven't read it then, because man, it would just make me hungry to hear nothing but food.
Everything's covered in honey. It's like, oh, God, you're killing me, man.
That does sound really good.
I know.
Well, the other thing that you had mentioned in your message was about this interesting concept, this interesting movement that's come out of nowhere, that apparently people want to have a solo sequel film. Now, what is going on with this?
Well, I grew up in the same generation as like Stephanie B, and we just had like no Star Wars, early on. It
Yeah.
wasn't until the 90s where a lot of the EU stuff came out. And for me it's like just make it, just let's, but have Larry Kasdan actually do it, not his messed up son, John. I think John Kasdan was the guy who ended up writing it. But
Hmm.
I mean, if they get someone like Larry Kasdan who actually knows what they're doing, and focus it on Jabba the Hutt, the bounty hunters, the other stuff that people actually want to see, because nobody really, the stuff that they showed us, it's like, does anybody want to know how he got his gun, or how Chewbacca got his bandolera thing? I mean, that's not stuff
Or
that
how he
we
got
were.
his name and how lame
Oh
it
God,
is. That was
that
one of
was
the worst
horrible.
parts. Oh, that was one of the worst parts. I remember being in the theater for that because yes, I suffered through that for all of you. And man, yeah, it was so cringeworthy when he was just saying, "Whoa, oh, you don't have a family? Oh, all right, Han
Solo.
Solo." And it's like, really, really. It's like you might as well have just never told us how he got his name. You
Yeah,
might
that
as
was
well have
not.
just said it was always his name and never given an origin. But the fact that that is now canon is ridiculous, and it
Okay,
ruins
so
his
yeah.
character. You know?
So I'm sitting there and I'm rolling my eyes, and of course, I have to go with the whole family. So I'm pretending like, yeah, this is great. And I'm rolling my eyes. I'm just like, oh God, he's like having a sexual relationship with this robot. This is a nightmare. And then Darth Maul shows up on the screen, and I just sit straight up. I'm like, okay, they've got me. So I'm like, oh wait, is Kira possibly like an apprentice to Darth Maul? And I'm just like, no, no, this movie's horrible. You can't like this movie. I was like, yes, but it's Darth Maul though. Come on. And then they mentioned Jabba the Hutt at the end, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you bastards, you got me.
Oh yeah. No,
Bye.
and seriously, it just felt so forced. And it
Yeah.
reminded me a lot of Rogue One. Because when Rogue One came out, the one question that I always asked was, all right, everybody, if you liked Rogue One, what was your favorite part? And you cannot say it was the Darth Vader scene. Immediately people are like, and they have to think about it because honestly, that's the one scene that you remember. With Solo, I really do honestly feel like they knew that they had a stinker on their hands and that they
Uh-huh.
had to get something in there that people would remember. And so, what's the one thing you say? What's the most memorable part about Solo? And they'll say, "Oh, Darth Maul coming back." Yes, exactly, because that's what they wanted you to leave the theater with. They wanted you to leave the theater excited for Star Wars, excited for Darth Maul, and wanting to see what that storyline did, forgetting all of the other nonsense and stupidity that happened beforehand. So, yeah, God, it's just that
No, I see.
movie should not exist in the first place. And the fact that there's now a group of people. What got me the most, though, about the whole Solo 2 movement is the fact that the media were so behind it. It was so hilarious reading these articles about how, oh yeah, this strong group of friends is trying to speak out about how this film deserves. And I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't this the same group that was calling us a bunch of, toxic white males and racist and sexist, and we're just a small vocal minority? And yet now this extremely small group that wants to see Solo, because if people don't remember it, Solo is the only Star Wars film to ever lose money at the box office. Somehow, some way, they get the media protection. It's like, God, if you needed to show that you were a shill even more, then I don't know what else you could have done.
So, I mean, you know the history about how Solo happened. So they wanted Lawrence Kasdan to work on The Force Awakens with JJ. And Lawrence Kasdan didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard the story? I don't want to be redundant.
Not the full one, so go right ahead.
Okay, yeah. So Lawrence Kasdan said, I will work on The Force Awakens with you, but I want to do the Solo movie. Unfortunately, they kept having to rewrite and redo The Force Awakens, like even as it was filming, they were doing rewrites.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had to get his son to help him out with the script, which is why it's a nightmare. Because, they've set up in the universe that droids are kind of like emotional support beings. You know, they're there to assist or, you know, specifically BB-8 was designed as an emotional support droid for people who had like PTSD or whatever, just to have a companion. And people get, like you saw Hera and Chopper.
Yeah.
People get very emotionally attached to their droids. So them perverting that into something sexual was just, it's just unforgivable.
No, yeah, for sure. And the fact that that came out, you know, about a week or so before it came, you know, before the movie release, I think that had a major impact, because I thought that any fans that even had slight interest in the series were going to been like, you know, oh, you know, what is this? What is this nonsense? And then they hint at it all the way through too, and they tried to turn in these droids into something that they've never ever meant to be within the story itself. And no, I think that you're right. I think that one of the most egregious things that happened was the fact that when John Kasdan took over, he decided to just turn it into something that I'm sure Lord and Miller did not want it to be. And that's why I put the blame mostly on Kathleen Kennedy, because she fired directors 80% of the way through filming, you know, made the production budget gigantic. And what I think, honestly, is I think Lord and Miller had control over the story to like a pretty good to a pretty good extent. And then when they were fired, John Kasdan had to take over and had to have a lot more responsibility. And that's why it ended up having these things. And I will say, because I see a couple people putting stuff in the chat, it's not total garbage. All right, there are cool things. There are cool things in there. For example, the Kessel Run. I think the Kessel Run was pretty cool. I thought visually it was pretty cool. Darth Maul.
I love that the space monster at the end, you know, because they've established there are like creatures that live in space. I thought that was excellent, because it kind of expands the Star Wars universe. To,
and it calls back to, what was it, Clone Wars, where they show, or is it Rebels, where they show the space, the ones that can travel through, that can travel light speed.
The Purrgil, I think they're called.
Yeah, like
the space
giant
whales.
the space whales. So it kind of like calls back to that a little bit too. And as you said, adds more to the Star Wars universe. And that's why I think Kathleen Kennedy is just so wrong, is because, you know, I mentioned this in the video I did today. She says and claims that Star Wars can't be what Marvel is, or you have to be so careful with this story. And I'm thinking to myself, no, there's so much material. This is an entire galaxy far, far away a long time ago. That means that you have an almost unlimited playing field to use and to utilize. And yet what's happening here is that they are just telling crappy stories that nobody wants to hear, or they're taking stories that could be interesting and deciding to focus more so on identity politics, or more so on trying to get their agenda items in, rather than actually telling a complete story that people actually want to hear. And it's just sad, because Star Wars used to be such a great property, and could still be. I mean, the IP is still strong because it's still Star Wars. It is still almost unlimited in scope. But they need to start changing, and one of the things they need to do is they need to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, because she is not the correct person to be leading the charge as the head of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I just, you know, the stuff that I liked about Solo, unfortunately, you know, some of the people are dead now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the characters that I like, I was like, oh, she's really cool. Oh, wait, she's dead.
Oh, yeah.
No, let me try to think back. I mean, I love Kira. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't not like her. She was really cool.
I personally wasn't a fan, but that's, again, to me, that is not a, like, that's not an object. Like, that to me is a, no, she did a fine job, but just like with any character in any movie, you either like them or you don't. And so it's like, personally, I just wasn't, you know, drawn to her character all that much, but that's just me.
Yeah. I felt sorry for her. It's like, you know probably what she had to do to get out of her situation, you know.
Yeah.
I like how they I love Dryden Voss. I thought he was an excellent villain when he kind of like puts his hand on the back of her neck and kind of like a ownership type, you know, move. I was like, oh, he is creepy.
Oh, yeah, and I think that the actors overall did a very good job as portraying, you know, Alden Ehrenreich tried. He's not a bad actor, but he just was not the perfect choice for Han Solo. That's like my big thing.
Not enough charisma.
No.
They did an interview with Harrison Ford recently, and they were like, hey, after you're gone, who's going to play, Dr. Jones, and he was like, nobody can be Dr. Jones. I'm Dr. Jones, you know. And I think it's just true. I don't know if there is anybody who could fill those shoes.
No,
but...
and they don't have to. That's the thing. Hollywood, you don't have to have people continue on or reboot a character. It's called create a new character. And the problem is Hollywood has just become so devoid of any sense of originality that they've fallen into this we must reboots, sequel, and it's really just driven down the quality of films overall.
Yeah, I mean, I found L3 hilarious. I didn't take her seriously at all. Like, you know, where she has the droid revolt and like the gonk droids are jumping up and down on the consoles and stuff. I was laughing out loud. I was like, "This is fantastic."
Yeah, like I feel like with that part too, you had the people who were not taking the movie seriously, who were laughing like that, saying like, "Look how ridiculous this is." But then you had the others like me who recognized how ridiculous it was, but was just like, "Why is this? Why is this here? Why is this a storyline? Why is this like?" Because obviously like it's easy to like let something ridiculous just be like, "All right, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna laugh at it." But then there's also moments, at least for me, where I'm just like, I can't. It's just too ridiculous, and it's just making me cringe, and it's making my heart sink because we're focusing on a stupid droid revolt in a Star Wars movie. What the hell?
Oh, God. It was a good distraction, though. I was like, okay, that is a good distraction. But somebody, I think it was Jenny Nicholson. There's a young girl, and she does movie reviews, and she was pointing out like how gross it was because like L3 is technically Lando's like property.
Yeah.
So he's like having sex with this,
allegedly.
It's like allegedly. It's like she's sentient but she's property. So how creepy that kind of was. I was like, yeah, that's good point.
I mean, ever since the line, yeah, it works. I was like, why? Exactly. Why do we need to know this? John Kasdan, why did you have to put that line in there? Because that was definitely not your father. We know that.
That's exactly what the guy sitting behind me said. He was like, "Why? Why Lucasfilm? Why?"
I kind of want them. I want them to do a special re-release, and I want to try and get like in as many cities as possible meetups of people, and just to go to those screenings, just to have like a callback, like to have it almost like a Rocky Horror Picture Show type thing, where it's just like, what? Why is this a thing?
Oh my God,
that'd be fun. But
I want to see the Lord and Miller version. You know, it's like the Snyder cut. Everybody wants a Snyder cut. It's like that movie is horrible. No cut is going to ever change that movie.
Oh man, now you've just triggered them. You've just triggered the Snyder heads out there because they are just. I'm the same way because there are some people where they're still like, "No, man, you got to trust me," and I'm like, I watched it for 2.5 hours. And you cannot tell me that adding 30 minutes is going to make it better. I'm just like, there's very few cases where director's cuts actually make a difference. And this doesn't seem like one of them. One day I will, because I do own it. Fun fact, I do actually own the director's cut. And it was because of like chance. I want to say I got it for free. And it came with the original and extended edition. So I was, actually, I got it on sale. It was on sale on Google Play for like $3. And so I was like, oh, I'll buy that because I've heard the extended edition is worth it. So, I'm gonna get to it one day. But let me get to let me get to a couple of donations, and then we'll get back to that talk about Snyder and about that because that's also one we could talk about for a bit. One Very Human Life. Thank you for the follow on DLive and also for the ice cream. Appreciate that so much. And K-Man, thank you so much for your ice cream as well. Some people on YouTube, Senate says, I'm sorry we weren't smart enough to do the voting thing. Yeah, I bet you're sorry. I bet you're sorry indeed. Alex McCarthy says, no thanks on Solo 2. I liked Solo, but not enough for a sequel. A movie with Maul would be cool, though. I think that most fans would agree. I think that if you were Lucasfilm and you pitched them, hey, we're going to do a Maul origin story film, people would say, I'm interested. I know that I would be interested in that. Because Maul is a really cool character. Will Jenkins, thank you so much for that very generous super chat. He says, Hail Lord Odin, saying D&D, so talking about Benioff and wife, can't do Star Wars is ridiculous. They haven't done one yet, and to put down someone before they have a chance is gatekeeping. Just because someone is bad at one thing does not mean they are bad at another. Will, I will agree with you to a point. I think that absolutely we have to wait and see what they actually provide to know whether or not it's going to be good or not. We can't judge something to be good or bad before it comes out. That is a logical fact. You can't judge something before it comes out. However, I think that at the very least, and I think Will, Will, you've been very supportive of this channel, and I know that you're a common sense guy. I think that you would admit that people can still be concerned that their series is going to be flawed because of the decisions that were made whenever they were given the full reins without actually having source material to use. Because all of us, including me especially, I will defend them. I will defend them as being great at adapting material that has previously been established. When they have a book in their hands and they want to adapt that into a series, into a movie, I think it's going to be great. But here's the biggest question. What are they actually doing? Are they writing it themselves? Is it them just writing their own material with no guidance or not? Because that, I think, is still worth us having a discussion about. Should we be worried or should we not be worried? So Laura, before we move on to anything else, with Will Jenkins, very generous super chat. So what do you think? I mean, obviously I could see that it is definitely in a sense, gatekeeping in a way to say that D&D can't do a Star Wars movie very well. But do you also maybe think that there is at least legitimacy to having concern for their Star Wars movies?
Yeah, I mean, especially after going back and re-listening to the books, they did the books pretty much word for word. All the dialogue is almost exactly the same. And a lot of the stuff that they made choices to change, I have questions about it. It's like you completely change the character's development by changing just this one little thing here. I don't know if George R. R. Martin told them, say, I wish I had done it this way, or, maybe audiences will like it more. I don't know how much input that he had. But I mean, it's just taking something word for word, something somebody's written and putting it on screen doesn't seem to be all that difficult. But I mean, maybe it is.
Yeah, no, obviously, I'm never going to. I mean, it's that discussion of original screenplay versus adapted screenplay. I am never going to take away anything from anyone that does an adapted screenplay, because I do think that there is absolutely a level of skill needed, because you are obviously not creating the material, but for you to be able to put it in a certain order that works on screen, that does take skill. And so even though it's not the same thing as writing your own story, it is still a skill. And so that's why for them, I still think it's impressive, because imagine if someone else had adapted it, would they have adapted it nearly as well for those first 4 seasons? I think that's a big question mark. I think that their first 4 seasons are damn near rock solid. I mean, I can't think of a moment that I hated an episode during those first 4 seasons, as far as it not being well done, I guess
it's, my ignorance of not knowing what a showrunner does.
Yeah.
It's like, it was really difficult for me to kind of criticize Kathleen Kennedy, because it's like I had to do some research and find out, okay, I know what a producer does, but I don't know what someone in her position does.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did have to kind of look into that a little bit before I decided she actually does suck. So
yeah, no, yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why that's why I have been very harsh on Kathleen Kennedy more so than anyone else, because she, as the head of Lucasfilm, is not just a producer. As a producer, she is probably good at her job, because you can think about all the films that she's been attached to. I think the biggest problem with her as the not just the showrunner but the head of Lucasfilm is that she is supposed to be like the Kevin Feige. Like, Kevin Feige is essentially the head of Marvel, head of Marvel Entertainment. And so Kevin Feige's job is to pick the right people for the different, pick the right directors, pick the right people who are going to get the movies made, but also have that forward-thinking vision of, this is the next slate of films. This is the direction that we want to go in. And up to this point, he's done a great job. Now, I think that there are a lot of questions about Phase 4. I think that Phase 4 looks like it's going to be very problematic, but of course, we don't know exactly what Phase 4 is going to look like quite yet. But Kathleen Kennedy is in that same position. The problem is that she does not have that same forward-thinking vision. And you could see it clearly in the fact that she had 3 different directors all doing a different Star Wars film, and that by the second one, it was obvious she was letting each of them do their own version of the story without it having to worry about being consistent with the previous story. And so it's at that moment you realize that, okay, so Kathleen Kennedy does not know how to basically like, what's there's a wrestling phrase for it, fantasy book. She does not know how to fantasy book. She does not know how to think ahead and build the storylines up over a long period of time. And that's why if she gets to stay on as a producer, hey, she might be great at that job. She's obviously been able to raise the money. She's obviously been able to get all the money to the right people. And I'm not denying that she can do that. But they need someone else at the top who is going to be in charge of the creative vision. Someone like a Filoni, who we know has creative vision. Or a Favreau, who we know has creative vision. And that's why, honestly, at this point, it seems like there's a divide. It seems that Disney Plus, that is the Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni show. Because especially when you remember looking back at some of those panels from Celebration, it was all Favreau Filoni. But then with the movie, that's where Kathleen Kennedy showed up. So I think that you do see almost this divide, and you see where most of the attention is going, and most of the care is going. And it ain't to the Star Wars movies. I can say that much for sure.
I did manage to see a bootleg copy of the Mandalorian trailer.
Allegedly.
And when IG-88 came on the screen, all the energy you could hear in the crowd, people were like, "Oh, cool! It's like stuff we recognize."
Yeah, no, exactly. And I will say too, my favorite part of that, because because unfortunately because of timing, I couldn't go to that screening. I allegedly also had to see some stolen content, which is now available for free. So you know what, it's all good. But my favorite part of that entire presentation was when they showed how they were using practical effects and molds and actual like props instead of just using CGI. And I was like,
oh, yeah.
And the moment I heard the phrase, "Oh yeah, we went back to the original films and studied the flight paths of these certain types of cruisers," I was like, you've already got me sold. Because if you're going to focus that much to the point you're going to study flight patterns of fictional craft, I mean, come on. That means that they're obviously caring a hell of a lot about this show. And so I think The Mandalorian could be great, and I'm very excited for it.
Oh yeah, the trailer just, I just was a little concerned because his gun is like very long. It's like looks kind of unwieldy, but I guess if he can work it.
Yeah.
But
no, absolutely.
no, they had in the trailer that I saw, they had one of those Jabba the Hutt spider monkeys like barbecuing on the side of the street, like a street vendor. I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. Get your spider monkey here. But
get your spider monkey here, freshly cooked.
The guy who did the voice for Salacious Crumb, he was like a caretaker on the Lucasfilm, not the backlot, but the area in San Francisco where they have the Lucasfilm campus. And they were like, "This is the last movie. We want to kind of get everybody, a little bit part in the movie. Did you want to come in and try to do some voice work?" Because he was a really popular guy, kind of like the janitor fix-it guy.
Yeah.
And he came in, and that Salacious Crumb laugh came out, and they were like, holy cow. They invented that character just for him because he had that ridiculous screechy laugh.
Man, if only they could have given him a not crappy name. Wouldn't that have been so much better?
I have no idea where they come up with these.
Salacious Crumb. Like, what kind of a
Crumb.
name is that? Like, that's a name where you look up the definition in the dictionary and you're like, wait, these things actually mean something. It's like, no, I shouldn't be able to look up your name in a dictionary. Well,
no, Mark Hamill was saying that a lot of the droids and the animals and stuff, they didn't name them until like the toy came out.
Yeah.
So it might have been Hasbro came up with that ridiculous name.
Ah, man, I wouldn't be. I mean, that's why Prune Face. People remember Prune Face, even though it was never mentioned as Prune Face. But yet he has been immortalized as Prune Face because of the toys being released before the movie came out.
What's better than Therm Scissor Punch? So.
Oh my God, yes, that's right, Therm Scissor Punch. I will say this much: wouldn't it be great? All right, let's fantasy book here for a hot second. Who wants to see a Salacious Crumb and Therm Scissor Punch series on Disney Plus? I would pay money to see that series because, oh my God, could you imagine two of the most, it would be like It would be like a Star Wars version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Two characters that mean nothing in the original story that they've decided to make a story about. That would be, I can see it now. I want to hear some yeses in the chat for that.
No, we've got to do the Ben Shapiro musical first.
Oh my God, that's right. That's right. You're so right. You're so right. God, there's so many things that we got to do, but we need to pitch that. We can pitch that to Disney Plus first, though. But first off, the K-Man. Oh man, the K-Man says it makes more sense talking about BVS. It makes more sense after watching the director's cut, but it could still have been a lot better. Yeah, and that's what I normally hear people say is that it just makes more sense. And to me, it's that wasn't the problem in the first place. It wasn't that the film didn't make sense that was the biggest problem, because it was a problem, but it was just because the movie sucked. Like, that's just, like, objectively, it was just not a good movie. It was just not well made. It was not well directed. And I'm sorry, but no matter what you do, sorry, nothing can take away the stupidity of Martha. God, it's
I do enjoy talking to people who, love those movies because, they fight really hard to try to convince you.
And I respect them. And if you like that movie, guys, I respect you for your opinion. Just as long as we can agree that objectively there are at least a few problems. If we can at least admit that much, that there are a few problems, then I think that we can get along. But
the only reason I saw that movie in the theater was because the Wonder Woman introduction.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that was good.
Well, I was excited. I was so excited for it, to be honest. I was working at AMC at that time. I was working marketing. So I put up those posters, which were awesome. The posters were so cool because for those that don't remember, it was a Batman-themed poster, and over his face was a Superman logo. And then there was an opposite one, and it was Superman's poster with a Batman logo. It's like they were reversed. And it was really cool. It was really awesome marketing. And this film was being pushed as being, it's going to be so good. And then people saw it, and they were like, oh boy. And then the film didn't make $1 billion, and then Justice League made $650 million, and now we are in the state that we are in currently with DC.
Which is so weird because, as Henry Cavill, as an actor, I really like everything I've seen him in. And then, the Wonder Woman movie was good. The Aquaman movie was good. But, I mean, you put them all together, and it was just Justice League. I think I got 30 minutes into it, and I was just like, I can't watch it.
Yeah, Justice League is a giant mess. And that's why, for me, I acknowledge only 3 DC films as being worthy of seeing a second time. And that, of course, is Aquaman, Shazam, which I think is the best, to be honest. Shazam is the one I had the most fun with, and Wonder Woman. So, I have high hopes for Wonder Woman 1984. I think it's going to look, as long as Patty Jenkins is able to continue to do what she did with the first film, it's going to be great, And
well, yeah, they do need more high quality female directors out there doing, doing these big films.
Yep. Absolutely.
I just got static shock me up through my headset. That was horrible.
I just heard it. We heard the static shock. Oh my God.
Ow.
We heard the pain. Don't.
That's never happened before.
Ooh, yeah. That's not a good thing.
I'm okay.
I hope so. All right. If we hear any more, I'll be worried. I'll be really worried.
If you don't hear me, be worried.
Yeah. D Glasgow, thank you for the follow on D Live, and Zine App. Thank you very much for the follow as well. All right, let me jump back over to my YouTube peeps. Phil me, and also William Jenkins, hopefully we responded to the question that you had asked about. Again, I agree with you, man. I think that we can't judge anything, and that's why I've always been that person where I will go see something if I want to be able to speak from experience, That's why I've admitted this to you guys. That's why I've read the first Twilight book, and I only did it because I knew it was crap, and I wanted to read it to know it for myself. So that way, any person that said, well, how would you know you haven't read it? I could say, aha, I have read it, and God, it was awful. Same reason why I watched Girls season 1, because I wanted to be like, well, I mean, it's not funny because all the clips I saw just weren't funny. So I watched the show and I'm like, yeah, this still isn't funny. Just so that people could say, well, how would you know? You didn't even give the show a chance. Oh, I watched the entire first season and I chuckled one time, and it's only because Adam Driver is an extremely talented actor and it was a personal choice he made in a scene that made me laugh. But yeah, so I will never, like, there are certain people, and I respect them as people who crap over movies that they don't see. And I do have problems with that because I think that you need to be able to actually speak from experience of seeing something to be able to have, I think, more of a valid approach to it. So I will definitely, again, Will Jenkins, give you that credit about gatekeeping. But as someone who watched Game of Thrones, where it went to, and knowing that the reason why it went so downhill was mostly because of them, of D&D, because it was revealed HBO wanted them to do more. HBO offered them more, and they turned it down. And so that means they took full ownership of the decline of their series. So that's the reason why, personally, I'm concerned. Now, does that mean that their series is going to suck? No. And I said that there is one condition, I think, in which their series could be awesome. And it's if they get a strong writer to write the screenplay and to have full creative control over his story, I think then it could be an amazing trilogy, to be honest. Because, as I said, D&D have shown when they have material to adapt, they can adapt the hell out of it. They can do a great job adapting it. Seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones is, like, again, proof positive of that. Look to those first 4 seasons. They are the ones that adapted it. They are the ones that were behind it. All right? Yes, they were using the writings and the brilliance of George R.R. Martin. But imagine if they did the same thing, but with a different writer. I personally would, say, hey, how about you see what Timothy Zahn's up to and let him write a screenplay? Or how about you put him, could you imagine this dream team? Timothy Zahn and Dave Filoni working together on a screenplay. Oh my God. That could be one of the greatest things ever because, as I said, D&D know how to put things onto the screen. And so it would be interesting to see nonetheless.
Well, they do have a writer for KOTOR. She was a co-writer for Alita. Mm-hmm. So
ooh, okay.
Hired somebody.
Did like Alita. So.
I forget her name though.
Okay. Alex McCarthy says it'd be like to see movies about Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. They were awesome video games. Plus, Sam Witwer in Star Wars is always a good thing. I don't know much about the games, so I can't really speak much to that. Were you ever? Are you a gamer? Have you ever played those?
I tried to look through the, in like YouTube to watch the video walkthrough. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I was playing games at that time. I don't know how I missed Knights of the Old Republic, but I never did play it.
Okay. Soul Assassin says, one good thing about characters from the KOTOR series is there are many stories that are done, so D&D won't have to make up plots. Well, and that's why I said, and that's why I agree with the basic premise that Will Jenkins presents, which is that as long as they're able to get a good, solid script to adapt, I think they'll be fine. But the scary part is, are they going to have the same authority that they had for Season 8 of Game of Thrones? If they have that same authority and that same power, that's when the questions are asked, okay, this could be really bad, Because we saw what happened when they had full control over a series, and Season 8 was awful, and it's hard to defend Season 8 at this point. Filmy Professor, thank you very much for the very generous donation. Have no idea what currency that is because I'm ignorant. I'm an ignorant American person. But it's 200 something. What is that symbol? I just can't know. But it's Filmy Professor. So thank you very much for the super chat. He says, I just want one action scene in Star Wars which is as epic as the Darth Maul fight versus Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan from Phantom Menace. The lightsaber duels in both movies were just downright terrible. Boom. Filmy Professor, I am right there with you, man. And that's why the reimagining of the scenes from the first movie or rather, the reimaginings of the scene from, well, I guess it would have been Return of the Jedi? Or was that an Empire? I get my movies mixed up sometimes. The one that they just remade.
Oh, that was Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope.
That was the first one. Oh, that's right. Obi-Wan does die in the first one. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It's been a while. Sorry. It's been a while. Yeah, don't make me have to play my video, all right? Because I know that everyone loves when I play that video nonstop. Oh my God, I still remember. Oh my God, when when I had that last podcast like 2 weeks ago, when I forgot to have turned it off after the stream, and so the stream started and it was just gone for like 5 minutes, and then everyone in the chat's like, turn it off. Please turn it off. We know you're sorry. Turn it off. I was like, I really am sorry for this. But Filmy Professor, I'm right there with you, dude. I want better action sequences in, and I will say this much, and I'll ask Laura this too. My favorite action sequence in any Disney Star Wars film to this point is in a movie called Rogue One, which, even though I'm critical of that film, because honestly I think that the only thing memorable about that film, for the most part, is having that last shoehorn scene of having Darth Vader in there. It's not even the Darth Vader scene, though. It is the scene with the blind dude, who is a legit martial artist. That, to me, was one of the best fight scenes that we've had. However, I agree, I want to have great lightsaber duels back in Star Wars again, and that's why the article that I talked about today, one of the 2 articles I talked about today in my video on the main channel, was all about how there's now being talks that they're going to end the battle between the Sith and the Jedi, and potentially also the end of lightsabers, which I think would be terrible if they're going to do any future base film. So what are your thoughts on that as far as your favorite action scene from Star Wars that is not the Qui-Gon Maul Obi-Wan scene?
Yeah, I always like the Return of the Jedi fight between Luke and Vader.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, epic. The music and they're doing the two-handed kind of like long sword. It gives the feeling of weight to the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Because most of the time Lucas demanded that they keep both hands on their lightsaber to give it that feeling. But it's just it's the finale of the series. It's kind of, you can see Luke turn into the dark side and how much stronger he gets when he does. And, the symbolism of his all black, outfit is just, I love the music in that scene too. Very ominous.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And for as much flack as Return of the Jedi sometimes gets, because obviously there are certain decisions made, the ending party sequence being one of them, that we could obviously criticize, but I would say that there are definitely a lot of parts though that get overlooked, unfortunately overlooked, and that's one of them, because that is a great fight scene, because also too, it doesn't need the prequels flippy stuff. It doesn't need all of that crazy, awesome, really cool fighting sequences that you get even in the prequels, which is cool, by the way. Again, I think that stuff is awesome, but having just a raw battle of power. And Luke does do some flips in there, so there is that aspect to it. But the fact that it's just a raw fight, but it's not nearly as weak as the one from the first movie, because I will agree that much. That first one between but you couldn't do anything. I mean, unfortunately, Sir Alec Guinness is, he was an old man, so he could only move so much. But it's so funny now to look back at that fight scene, because you think, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, this is Darth Vader, and they're just,
Actually, I do really like there's the fight between Dooku and Anakin, because Obi-Wan has been knocked out.
That's right.
Where you can just they cut to just Anakin's face, and you can see the lightsaber lights on his face, but he is elsewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like, it's like that scene in The Matrix where he just kind of turns his back to Mr. Smith. And he's you could tell he's at another level.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even seem like he's having to try to fight Dooku at that point. And Dooku had always, in the Clone Wars, Dooku had always owned both him and Obi-Wan at the same time.
Yeah. And I will say this much. Yeah, go on.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was done.
I was just gonna say that if we could have a dream team, it would have, I think, Denis Villeneuve as director, Timothy Zahn as writer, and then all of the stunt coordinators from the John Wick series. If you had all 3 groups together, you would have, I think, the most epic, badass Star Wars film of all time. That's just me. Someone tell me that I'm wrong, first off, and someone give me 3 of those categories, 3 replacements that could do it better. And I will fight you on that. So Denis Villeneuve, who is one of the greatest directors of the modern era. Timothy Zahn, who is the best writer, I would say. I think most of us would agree he's the best Star Wars writer of, like, you know, the Star Wars era. And then stunt team, John Wick. I mean, fight me. Fight me on that.
Well, to throw a wham in there, I love Claudia Gray.
Who is
she? She just put out a Master and Apprentice and Obi-Wan Qui-Gon book, which I haven't gotten to yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I need to dive further into it. So definitely over Twitter, send me some of those links. That way I know to add those to my list of stuff to read. I've just been on such a Timothy Zahn kick that's like the only thing I know is I know how great Timothy is.
I think I can send you the audiobook.
Ooh,
because
nice.
I think I have them.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is fantastic.
Cool.
But
women can't write. Sorry, I have to be a toxic male here because that's what you know they say that I am. Women can't write Star Wars. I'm just a toxic white male in my mom's basement.
I guess I'm the very rare toxic lesbian, toxic white lesbian. But I hate and love women at the same time. But I think Timothy Zahn might have some kind of deal where they can't do anything with Thrawn without him involved.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe.
Yeah. And you know what, though? That's why, again, could you imagine having those people? And of course, I will look into... Ooh, even better. How about this? We make a compromise. It's a double screenplay. Timothy and... What's your girl's name?
Claudia Gray. Together working on a script with Denis Villeneuve and then this fight sequence team from. Boom. Diversity. Inclusion. I only made it through. I got John Wick. I made it through the part where they got to the desert, and I had to go. It was a long day. I was like, I can't.
I hear you. Though, if there's one valid criticism of John Wick 3, the length is definitely part of it, and the desert scene is where we get to that length being felt for sure.
I was like, I saw the doggos already, so.
Oh,
I got the doggo scene.
That dogfight scene was so great. Like, seriously, I was very impressed. I was very impressed.
I see what you mean now. And then Fandango today sent me a coupon to get both John Wick 1 and 2 for like $4 each.
Oh, so. Nice. Yeah, they were doing... I know that a lot of those do a lot of various deals and stuff. And those are always great to go into. I do have beef with Fandango, though, because right now, I'm sure everyone knows that Rotten Tomatoes has changed their... I talked about this on the Patreon podcast. I don't know if you listened to that yet, Laura, but about how they've just changed their system so that you have to be verified to leave a audience rating now, and for it to count in their new official verified audience rating score.
I wonder if they're worried about like studios, like competing studios, sending people in, you know, as bots to like crash the reviews.
Yeah.
Videos. If you can't verify anything, if anybody can go, as we've seen, people can just go and sign up for an account.
Yeah.
But I don't really have a problem with that because, you know, there's like that movie that I was talking to you about, the Best of Enemies. Mm-hmm. You read the critics' reviews and they just completely pan the movie, and then you read the audience reviews and it's like, okay, well, they're agreeing with my opinion of the movie. Yeah. You know, what exactly is...
Well, and that's why, for me, I think that if we're going to talk about issues with Rotten Tomatoes or issues with having this divide between fans and critics, I think the thing that needs to be fixed is the critic rating. That's what needs to be fixed. Because especially when you have critics openly admitting the fact that they have basically played softball on certain reviews and that they essentially just make crap up on occasion, is to me proof positive enough that they need to vet much better their reviews, but also they need to get rid of the whole tomato meter, because the tomato meter is so deceptive. Because, like, as you mentioned, Best of Enemies, I got that pulled up right now. So the tomato meter was set at 53%, but the average rating was a 6.03. So to me, it says, no, you should have just the average rating. You should have it be critics 60% is the average score. And then audience should be done the same way. But even the audience score doesn't do the same because the audience score is 76%. But that is a percentage of those who rated it 3.5 stars or higher. So basically what we're left with here is a very broken system. That's why, I've mentioned this on previous episodes where I'm trying to build something different. It's not perfect. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect system. But at least if there can be a system where it is clearly laid out how the scores are tabulated, how the scores come together, that there is a difference between an objective point of view and a subjective one, I think for me that is the best path forward. But what Rotten Tomatoes is doing is that they're just making their site harder to really get into, because I tried leaving a review the other day and it said, oh, you need to verify your ticket. And then it has, oh, if you bought it through Fandango, which by the way, we're owned by Fandango, so use our service. Oh, and eventually AMC will be supported. Eventually Regal will be supported. And I'm just like, what? What? That's silly. But yeah, I understand. I think that it's a good thing to try and make sure the service is as legit as possible. However, if they care about their site being seen as legitimate by people, and if they want more traffic to their site and more support, the answer is not by going after audiences. It's by going after critics who fake reviews, give negative reviews, but then because it's a movie they have to support, they check on that little box that says fresh. Because I exposed that months ago where I had a reviewer. There was a critic who gave 2 movies a 2 out of 4. But for one of them, they ticked off fresh, and the other, they ticked off rotten. And so basically, I think there needs to be a new standard, which is why I'm trying to invent a new standard, and I'm trying to revolutionize the film critic industry. And crap, sell my soul. But yeah,
but they need somebody like a teacher who is, your whole thing is how you're going to evaluate something.
Yeah,
they need
absolutely.
the input of people like that. It's like,
Yeah, and that's why, my dream is to have it be where there is a set of people that have, the main score. And I would love it for it to be people like Gary, people like, I would say, because it would be people that I would trust to be objective and be able to tell the difference between an objective and subjective point of view. I would say I would add Laura to that discussion too, because Laura has been so awesome on these, I will say. So shout out to Laura for being not only consistent with being present for the Patreon streams, but also for being awesome with her input. But people that I can trust to say they can know the difference between, okay, this movie objectively was very well put together, but I personally hated it. Versus people who say, I personally hated this film, and so therefore I'm going to say that the movie is all around bad, which is just not usually the case.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to, set up a standard for evaluating something. And it's so easy if you have one of your evaluation standards wrong, it completely throws off what you were trying to get out of that situation.
Yep.
And it's difficult, when they evaluate people at work, they say, okay, well, this metric here, this is what we're looking for. Okay, well, then everything else is going to fall by the wayside. It's like if you only care about, if you only care about fan scores, it's going to, versus people who you see things in movies that I don't.
Yeah. Because
you look at movies differently than I do. So, you have to include the professional reviewers alongside with the common everyday people. But it's like, how much do you weigh each evaluation? Is it 50-50?
Exactly right. And that's why with the system that I'm trying to set up, I think that it kind of almost makes it to the point where it is very easy to tell if someone is skewing a score. It's because they have to go by every category. And so let's say that they score visual effects high on one movie but low on another, but there is realistically no difference between the two. You can tell that they're just playing with their numbers to try and get their objective score to be a certain way. But also the reason why I get so caught up on this is because in my head, and this is obviously because I have, I had a rose-tinted vision of critics for a long time because I've always wanted to be a movie critic. I mean, ever since I was younger, I've loved movies. I've loved talking about them. And then I found out that there were these people that got paid to talk about their thoughts on movies. But then as the years went on, I started to read these reviews and see they're putting so much of their own personal spin and subjective thoughts into these reviews. And I was always just raised on the concept that critics are supposed to be the objective ones, you know? Critics are the ones that are supposed to say, this is objectively a good film, while the audiences are more so about, oh, this film is awesome, or oh, this film is so much fun. And so that's why whenever I would see a movie that had like a high rating from a critic and a high rating from an audience, I'd say, oh, this is not only a great film, well made, but it's also a good time. Or when I'd see a 30% from critics, but a 90% from audiences, I would say, all right, so it's not the best made film in the world, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, you know? But now it's just gotten to the point where critics have become so biased that I honestly think that this is the... And that's why I love it, because I look at my own reviews now, because I fill out the same card that everyone else does whenever I try and send those out on Twitter. And what I notice is that I see the scores and I'm like, oh, I really did subjectively like or dislike this film more than what it objectively actually was. So I just think it's interesting to look back at oneself to be able to do that. But let's get to some chats before we move on. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was about to say really quickly is a lot of times, like, I like that Best of Enemies movie just because it was set in my home state, and it was a story that I like true stories or based on true stories, and it was just something I'd never heard before. And I'm going to mute because my dogs are barking.
Yeah, it's all good. So on D Live first, Stefan, thank you for the lemon, man, and also for the follow. I really do appreciate it. Also, for everyone watching, thank you so much for your patience, because obviously, you know, whenever we do interviews, whenever we do collaboration streams, it's always going to be harder to get to all the chats. So don't think of it as, oh, I only read super chats, because if this is your first time here, because on my normal streams, when it's just me, I read all the chats that I possibly can. And so since we have a much smaller group, and normally there are smaller groups when it's this early, and also when it is interviews, just because that's the way that it works, unfortunately, I'm going to try and catch up. So Phantom Menace, what's going on, dude? How is it going? He says, did you get your summer schedule stuff worked out? Yes, I have a preliminary schedule. It's not finalized yet, but just to go over it quickly, because I don't want to, I've already talked about it today, it would be Monday through Thursday, all streams for the morning. So again, the night schedule is pretty much unchanged, except for days when it has to be changed. Because remember, I said that I was in a show, and so certain days I'm not going to be available in the evenings on Monday and Tuesday because of that at the same time. So it might be pushed, it'll be most likely pushed later than normal, but I'll keep you guys, of course, posted on that on Twitter and Discord. But the mornings should always be consistent. So the mornings, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., Monday through Thursday, and each day is going to focus on something different. So Monday is going to be movie news, box office news. Tuesday mornings are going to be actually watching a movie together. So that's going to come back on D Live, since D Live is a lot more friendly when it comes to that kind of stuff. Wednesdays is going to be a wrestling news show. That's going to be on the secondary channel because I love wrestling. I have a bunch of people that like wrestling too. Thursdays is going to be my Twitch exclusive stream because Twitch has to do it that way. And that's going to be a chat/gaming stream. So again, nothing official is yet because I need to go over that with my wife first. But yeah. Fun stuff going forward. Let me go ahead and get to some super chats. Teresa Martin, thank you very much for that super chat 20 minutes ago. Thank you for being patient, Teresa. Hopefully you're still watching. Teresa Martin says, I agree with Will to a certain degree, but because of Game of Thrones, I'm going to wait and hear the D&D Star Wars is good before I can see it. And I think that's valid, Teresa. I think that any person that has any doubt about what Benioff and Weiss can do with Star Wars because of what they did with their last season of Game of Thrones, I think that is completely valid. And I think that both of you have good points. Bruce Lombardo, thank you very much for the super chat, says, I'm still boycotting Disney. And I again, support and respect any person that is boycotting Disney. And that's why I am, like, situationally doing that. Like, for example, seeing Aladdin, but allegedly giving my money to John Wick, allegedly. You know, that's kind of how I'm doing my own personal way of boycotting. But when the Disney streaming service comes out, I am going to get that legitimately because I want to be able to review The Mandalorian. I want to be able to review Clone Wars Season 7. And I want to be able to do that legitimately, obviously, because that there's one thing you don't screw with. It's Disney on certain fronts, and that's one front I would never want to cross Disney on, because the last thing I need is for them to shut everything down, you know? Let's see. A13BRU, what's going on, man? Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel. Bruce Lombardo, thank you for the other super chat. He says, the fact you're reading Zan makes me happy. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and of course, I've got my audiobook that I'll get into once I finish the current audiobook series, the duology, that I still need to finish. So thank you again, because I think it was Mad Mitch. Mad Mitch sent me that. Bruce, if this is the same Bruce, or no, this is different Bruce, but Bruce sent me, I still don't know if Bruce has come back yet, but Bruce, thank you for sending me Tank Girl. I'll be watching that this week, so can't wait for that. But yeah, so I'm loving audiobooks, and Timothy Zahn has some really good audiobooks, some really great epic stuff. All right, let me see in the chat. Where did I leave off? Let's try and get through this stuff. Alex McCarthy says, I like the Twilight movies. Sorry, so sorry. Blame my wife, so sorry. You like them? I know you had to watch them, but you like them? You disgust me, Alex. I take away your mail card. How dare you? How dare you, you toxic feminist. Outpost Dyer, what's going on, man? What's going on, man? Outpost Dyer, if you want to jump on, hey, you got the link, man. Miss having you on here. Let us see. Two ball guys are here. Those two ball guys, you need to get your live stream set up already, all right? I want to be that first guest that you said that I would be, and I'm sad that we haven't gotten there yet. Make it happen, Cap'n. Come on, let's do it. Let us do it. That sounded weird. That sounded so weird. Pet the dog, says Bruce. They're sleeping. I don't want to pet the dogs when they're sleeping. That wouldn't be good at all. And then D-Live, because I want to show my D-Live people some love. Peabody, what's going on, man? Good morning to you. Will Gentry says, I've got no idea how things work on here. Might have to ask one of you to walk me through it. Basically, it's just like any other stream. You watch, and you can put things in your chat. And then there's now, this is a new system. Now there is this treasure chest box that builds up over time. And it builds up more if you are active in the chat. Not spamming the chat, but, active in the chat. And then normally what I'll do is I'll add in my own cryptocurrency in there and then distribute it at the end. And those who have been most active have the greatest luck to get the most crypto. And so I get something out of it, you get something out of it, and it's all a good time. And all the other people there can help you out in explaining everything that's going on over there. And let me see. I think I've got one other super chat from Will Jenkins. Will Jenkins says, thanks, Lord Odin, for doing what you do to help us get through the Hollywood BS. Remember, never give up, never surrender. Yes, absolutely, Will. And thank you for your generosity, Will. And again, I totally hear where you're coming from with about gatekeeping. And I will do the very best that I can to always try to avoid that. But I think we can all come together and say it is a valid thing to be worried and concerned about what Game of Thrones is going to be, or rather what Star Wars trilogy, the next trilogy by Benioff and Weiss, is going to be because of what happened as such. And then Teresa Martin says, off to Mass. Well, God bless Teresa Martin. Have a wonderful, wonderful Mass. All right, so we are getting close to time. So is there anything, Laura, that you wanted to talk about to wrap things off? A final subject to talk about?
Oh, I did see Aladdin yesterday, so that was wonderful.
Now, this is a good topic to end on. So what are your thoughts about Aladdin? Let's hear your thoughts first.
Okay, so everything that they did, especially with Will Smith going off on his own, doing something original, every time he changed up one of the songs to it sounded like, oh, that's something that Will Smith would do. It was great. Mm-hmm. All the new material, the new characters. I love the handmaiden. She was so funny.
Yeah, she was SNL. She was an SNL actress, and she was great.
Yeah, she is great. And I just wish that they had the courage. Dogs.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
I wish they had the courage to just let him do the entire song as Will Smith would have done it. I mean, I think enough people, it's like, okay, we know the original beat for beat, and that's what bothers me. I don't mind the remakes, but have the courage to completely redo it. Have a new... I liked the guy who played Aladdin. I thought he was, he didn't have the voice that Jasmine had, obviously.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, Laura, you know how I feel about that casting. Like, holy crap. That's a star. That is a star on their hands. Yeah, just her song, her additional song was Speechless. It was very emotional. Oh, what the second part when she is like full out, like when she turns around and then you realize that it's like a dream type sequence. But when she turns around and says that first, like, I won't go speechless, and it's just, she's like hands by her side, and you just look at her face and you're like, God, get it, girl. Like the whole time I'm like, yeah, get it. And I was like,
yeah,
I hate this movie because it's unnecessary, but yeah, get it. Like I was like, I'm glad I could be excited for something.
Yeah, the controversial opinion, it got me more than Frozen did when, she sings the Let It Go song. It seemed more legitimate to me.
Oh, for sure. Yes, absolutely. That song, Speechless, is better than anything from Frozen. I will. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact, because you know who wrote those new lyrics, right? So their names are Pasek and Paul, and they're like the newest hot thing in Hollywood because they're the ones that did the entire score for Greatest Showman, which if you've not seen that, I recommend it. It's really good. I love Greatest Showman more so than I should. It's fantastic. I'm a musical theater geek, so I was like, even though Zendaya can't sing in real life, and her part bothered me because of that, because I'm like, but you can't really sing, so I don't really like you on screen because of that. Everyone else, though, were great because I knew they could sing and everything. But and, of course, Zephron's in it, and we all know. Laura especially knows that I have a huge love crush on Zac Efron, and I think he should play Wolverine, Batman. He should be the next everything. Cast him as everything because he could pull it off.
I'm getting you that cardboard cutout, that life-size cardboard cutout.
So that way, every stream, I just have Zephron behind me, and there's a great, for anyone out there who likes musical theater, this is a total random tangent. If you've never heard of a group called Star Kid, look them up. They do some of the funniest musicals ever. They've done a Harry Potter musical series that's fantastic. But one of the things that they do is they have a Zac Efron poster in one of them, and it's fantastic. It's Zephron is bae. I love Zephron. But no. So I think though that and obviously you, but we are kind of like a rare breed, I think, when it comes to opinions on this movie specifically, because it feels like a lot of people hate this movie as far as fans go, like as far as general audiences.
So, like, this was my daughter's movie. I mean, we watched it hundreds of times, and I couldn't help it. I teared up when the music started. And I was just like, oh, the memories, you know. Yeah. People hate too much. It's like, you know, the remakes. It's a chance for them to do something new, and creative people, they want to do something new, but the studios are so afraid. Yeah. Of creativity. So it's like a compromise. It's exactly. Like, okay, you know, we don't want you to go out there, you know, on your own. So here, take this thing that we already know works from a business perspective and change it. And, you know, I really enjoyed Dumbo. I really enjoyed most of the Beauty and the Beast remake, except for the whole the whole forcing the, what's his name? LeFou, yeah, that was unnecessary.
Well, because it was just like, because the problem there too was just like he wasn't gay in the original movie, and it was never implied that he was. It was implied that he was a small dude, and that's why he looked up to Gaston, because he was really tiny and Gaston was really big, and that's a relationship that a lot of us can understand, because if you've ever been in high school, if you were the small person, you would want to have the big brawny dude protecting you. And yeah, they decided to add that, and that was cringy. Yeah, it was so cringy. Yeah, and it may just be me, but it's like, and this may sound weird coming from me, but I always feel bad when you take an actor and make him do that kind of role. Yeah. And it's like, you know, he's just trying to work. He's an actor. He's trying to get some roles, and you know, hey, maybe he's not really comfortable with that. You know, yeah. If I don't know how much choice the actors have, I don't know how much they know in advance about the character. Yeah. If they come to him in advance and they say, hey, we're going to go this direction with this character, and he's like, I'm cool with that. But I always feel a little uncomfortable. You know. Well, because, I always just have my issues whenever they, instead of creating new characters, they decide to change them, you know? And it's a kid's movie, you know? It's like, not all people, and this is coming from a gay person, not all people are comfortable with their kids having an established character like that changed to gay. Yeah.
you know.
And that's why
I understand that.
And that's why I think that if you approach it from we're creating a new character and this character is going to have this orientation, that I think is going to be approached much differently than, oh, we're changing it, you know? And I think that if they wrote an original character, and obviously there would be backlash because we still live in the world that we live in. And obviously, especially those with, religious backings will have certain views on that and won't support it. But guess what? Then they have that choice to not support it. They have that choice to not go, and they're not hurting anybody. They're not attacking anybody. They're not trying to, kill anybody unless they're the people that do that, in which case, obviously, they should be arrested and thrown away and thrown into a dark prison and never see the light of day again. But because no one should ever commit violence against anyone for any reason. But honestly, it's so interesting how we live in this world now where things like that become as, oh, we have to do it this way. We have to create this. We have to create this narrative. We have to put this in. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to. How about instead you do original content? But that's the problem. They're not original.
I mean, that's the way I see it. I know people hate these remakes, and I see it as like a compromise because the one actor I used to listen to his podcast a lot was oh god, the guy who did Kanan's voice in Rebels. Freddie Prinze.
Freddie Prinze Jr.
I used to listen to Freddie Prinze Jr.'s podcast, and he would talk about how difficult it is to get a movie made, and that a lot of times creative people have to compromise just to get some form of their vision out there. But as far as Aladdin is concerned, the lead actor, the second time that he sings his Street Rat song, I thought they let him do a little more with it. He sounded a little better that second time.
Yeah.
But
it's a movie that, to be honest, I would probably watch again just to see certain things that maybe I missed the first time. But in all honesty, it would be to see that performance from Jasmine again, because I'm not overselling it here that it's powerful. It really is. But I agree with you, because going back to something you said like a while ago at the very beginning of your talking about Aladdin, I think that if you're going to go, and someone asked this in the chat, John early said, ask your chosen. So ask Laura how she feels about the concept of reboots, because it was popularized by Batman Begins back in the day. Well, I think that it's been around for a while before even Batman Begins. But I would say that if you're going to remake something, make sure it's being remade for a purpose and that it's not just being remade for a cash grab. Because to me, this had cash grab all over it. They weren't adding anything new to it all that much. And I honestly think that this movie would have been better set being a retelling. So not a reboot, not a sequel, but a total retelling of the story. And I think, and I said this in my review, if they had called this movie Jasmine and it had just been literally from her perspective, she's now the lead, Aladdin is a side character, you see a little bit of his journey, but really it's mostly focused on her, then you change it. Then you make it almost a new movie. It's using similar concepts and characters, but you're making it something new as well. And of course, you don't just do that for the sake of doing that, because then you get to the point where it's like, okay, well, where does Ghostbusters 2016 begin and, this end? Because obviously, if you're just doing it because you want to have a female-centric story, that's one thing. But I think that if they did it knowing that one character that did not get a lot of development during the original was Jasmine, and many people like Jasmine as a character, I think that would be a good enough reason to say, let's explore her a little bit more. Because then, not only do you get that amazing song that she sings, but then you could also justify writing even more music for her during those scenes when she's not with Aladdin, during those scenes when she is off screen. And I think that if you're going to do it that way. Don't just do a shot-for-shot remake or a mostly shot-for-shot remake and then make people realize that. And going to Will Smith had moments where, again, I was very entertained, but he was trying so hard. And it was obvious, though, that he's not ever, and no one can ever replace Robin Williams. So last word to you before we end the stream, because I do have to head to rehearsal, but last word to you about this topic.
Yeah, I agree that, the theater that I was in, when the song came on that Will Smith did for the for the credits, the kids I couldn't get out of the theater. Kids were dancing in the aisles. And I was like, this is what they needed They needed to, and that's trusting Will Smith quite a lot to redo those classic songs. But this is the energy that they needed, because I mean, it didn't have any energy. When he did the classic Aladdin songs, and they're back to back, so that's a long period of time to have kind of that lull in the energy. Because you can't match Robin Williams' energy, so you're going to have to go in a different direction there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that had they done that, we would be having a different discussion, but they did. And that's why it's interesting, because, I mentioned before about the love-hate of the audience, but actually I was technically wrong there. It is getting a lot of praise from audiences and a lot of hate from critics. So right now I'm going to Metacritic because it's just a lot more fair, I think, in its reviewing process. But right now it's a 54 from critics and a 6.2 for audiences. And I think I think those are fair. And I think that what it comes down to is that this movie is not crap. And I want to put that out there for anyone that is expecting people, because there are people out there, they want people to say, oh, this movie's crap because it's Disney and we must hate everything Disney. I'm not that person. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm going to tell you my honest thoughts on anything that I see. And my honest thought was this movie was unnecessary, but it's not terrible, And
well, if you are the kind of person who's going to hate anything that Disney put out just because of TLJ, let me know who you are so I can kind of put you way far over there. When the movie ended, everybody clapped. I mean, it was an energetic, yay when the movie was over. So
yeah. And I honestly, and Ray Targaryen says, I honestly am not sure why people are hating on Will Smith as Genie. We can't resurrect Robin Williams. To me, the reason why is because he is just, again, he's Will Smith playing Will Smith as a Genie. And I think that's the reason why, for me personally, I had issues with it, because sometimes it worked and sometimes it just didn't. But also, too, I am a stickler, not just when it comes to CGI, which of course is, I could go on about CGI for this film, but I'm also a stickler when it comes to songs. And the fact that you could hear all of the post-processing that went into all of his songs compared to, Naomi Scott, where not a single note was changed or altered, that also brought into my thought about that as well. So, but yeah, I would say if you saw the trailer and you're interested in it, I think it's worth $5 to see, to be honest. I think that it's worth seeing for $5. If you have kids, I think the kids will enjoy it for the most part. But at the end of the day, too, I don't think it's necessary. So I think that if you want to just stay at home and watch the original, that would be a great use of your time, because the original is still going to be great, But yeah, so that's going to finish our discussion. And Laura, anything that you want to plug or any last things that you want to say before we finish up with the Patreon list?
Oh, well, I don't have a channel, but I suggest everybody go, if you haven't already. Nerdrotic is he's killing it right now. So good. I love his stuff. I'm trying to think if there are any. Sith Kryptonian is making videos again. He's one of my favorites.
Yes.
Oh, I love him. And then he's the one who's pro Snyder, so he's kind of pointed out
a good balance.
Some stuff to me.
Yeah.
And of course, drunk 3PO.
Yeah. Don't worry, drunk. I saw you super chat. Don't worry, man. I got you covered, man.
Hey, Jay.
And speaking of him, Drunk 3PO, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, much love to Laura, you too, Odin. Well, thank you very much for that, Drunk. I appreciate it.
The most handsome man on YouTube.
Yes. And again, he rocks the snowball better than any other person on the internet.
Don't ever get a stand, Jay. It's working for you.
Yes.
Don't ever get a stand.
So let me go ahead and shout out all of my patrons real quick. So A Grey Jedi, Adam Shawhan, Albertus Magnus, Baptist 702, Brandon Blick, who's actually he's my only Subscribe Star person, Brian P, Chicago Joe 47, Dan Maloney, Darkstar 57, Delete System 32, Dion, Edward Coleman, Enrique Evangelista, Entertainment Hacker, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunka Chunka Funkin' Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Jerembeck, JJ, Laura Story, thank you Laura once again for joining me, Matthew Kadish, Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Projar Sarif, Proper Ginevra, Riff Magos, Shenglong, Sir Lancelato, Teodora the K-Man, the DJD Show, those two ball guys, make sure you get started in that live streaming, and Tina B. So to everyone on DLive, to everyone on YouTube, thank you so very much for joining us today. Brian Robertson, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Seriously, you guys are awesome, and this was a lot of fun. And a huge shout out once again to Laura, my chosen, for your tremendous generosity, but also for joining me on these streams and just always being a great co-host.
Oh, well, thank you. We did it. I was a little nervous being by myself. I was like, oh, what are we going to talk about? So long.
And yeah, so as always from me, thank you guys for watching. And new schedule will be posted on, I'll put some link up on Twitter sometime tonight on the Discord as well for what the live stream schedule will be. But morning streams are coming, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I will let you guys know the topics about what they'll be. It will be a weekly thing. And don't worry, the night stuff is the night streams are remaining the same. So don't freak out like people were freaking out last night because they thought I was replacing them. Nope, this is all just extra content since I no longer have a job until the end of July. So just try to make sure I use my time wisely and don't just waste it away. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Shout out and kudos to Laura once again. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.
Happy Memorial Day.